series up at 2 apiece. Anthony Edwards doing Anthony Edwards things, finishing with 36, 6, and 2. Dylan Harper leading the way for the Spurs with 24, but it's not quite enough for the Spurs. They lose their big man, and they lose their lead in the series. We're joined by CBS Sports NBA analyst John Henson. As the Wolves, they escape with the victory to tie the series up at 2 apiece, and Victor Wembanyama, probably the story of this game, being ejected in the second quarter. I want to get your take on how much did this ejection just change the temperature of this game? Because for San Antonio, you lose your superstar in Victor Wembanyama, but Minnesota also, they have to deal with the pressure of knowing they have to win if you have no Victor Wembanyama on the floor.
Yeah, we've seen the Spurs against the Trailblazers when they lost Wemby. They came back. They had a really good win. I mean, Fox, Vassell, Castle, Harper Jr., those guys can win games for you, and they almost did tonight. They ran out of gas because of Ant Edwards, man, battling through it, going to get oxygen in the tunnel. We can never count these guys out. We've said it time and time again. It's 2-2. Wemby, unfortunately, lesson learned, young playoff team. Hey, look, can't swing your elbow and get ejected and hurt your team. But the story is Anthony Edwards. And listen, he's only getting healthier day by day. The Spurs better figure out how to put this thing out of reach or win a couple more games quickly before he gets back to 100%. And then we're going to have a series on our hands.
I want to talk a little bit more about Anthony Edwards, but first, let's go back to this Victor Wembanyama ejection, because we saw there in the replay, Dylan Harper kind of shocked once he heard the news that Victor Wembanyama being ejected after that play. It sounds like I might know your answer, but did you agree with the way the refs handled this ejection?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but, because you don't want to see a play like that go out in the playoffs. But, I mean, he loaded up. He followed through above the neck. That, by nature of the rule, he needs to be ejected. And it's just unfortunate for the Spurs. They tried to pull a rabbit out of the hat, but they couldn't. Valiant effort. But, hey, look, series is 0-0 right now going home. Spurs got to win 2 out of 3 on their home court. They get to go into the next round.
If you are the Spurs, how do you handle, what's your response when you're essentially, your superstar is getting ejected? And this is, let's be honest, like, you're in a crucial spot right here. You have the opportunity to go up 3-1 in this series.
Yeah, I mean, it hurts a little bit, but this is how things go. All champions have went through it. All young teams have went through it. OKC, game 7s, game 6s, where it's win now or go home. They're going to have to grow up fast. And if they don't, Minnesota will be advanced to the 3rd straight Western Conference Finals. But as a Spurs, hey, look, we go back home, we regroup, flush this down the toilet. Wemby's going to come out extra motivated, minus the elbows, and I think the Spurs will be fine.
Extra motivated minus the elbows. But will they come out extra motivated? Let's say there is no Victor Wembanyama. Do you believe there could be any league discipline for him after that ejection? And if so, how does that change things?
I always tell my friends, I say, listen, this is entertainment, right? The NBA understands, they have their rules. Hey, look, flagrant 2, let's move forward. This is a physical kind of playoff battle. It happens. Lesson learned for Wemby. Glad he didn't do this maybe in the later rounds if they were down 2-1 potentially or something like that. So this was a good time for him to learn a lesson. Didn't hurt him too much. However, going home up 3-1 would have felt a lot better. Now it's a must-win. Game 5 at home. Can't ask for much more at home for a must-win, but definitely the Spurs missed out on an opportunity tonight.
Absolutely. But let's go back, because at the top you were talking about Anthony Edwards. You said the Spurs ran out of gas because of Anthony Edwards. What did you make, though, just about how San Antonio, their defensive strategy to try to contain him? It seems like he was being double-teamed quite a bit there.
Yeah, there's a reason he's one of the best players in the world. Arguably was one of the best players on the Olympic team with all the best guys. He just willed his team to victory offensively. 2 big threes to change the tide of the game. Listen, if he does not attack and take the game by the horns, they're going to lose. So Ant could barely even breathe. He had to stay on the other end of the court at one point. So look, just the, warrior type mentality for him. We've seen it year in and year out. We've discounted this with Minnesota team so many times, and somehow, some way, they're tied 2-2 with an unhealthy superstar. They're in a good spot right now.
Oh, 100% you're in a good spot. If you're Minnesota and you're coming into this series being told, hey, You already know that Anthony Edwards is dealing with an injury, but hey, you're sitting at 2-2 after 4 games. But I do want to dive just a little bit deeper into this matchup because you think about this. You have a Wemby-less Wolves team, or a Wemby-less Spurs team facing a Wolves team that gets this win by, what, 5 points? Is that concerning to you at all? Do you leave this game feeling more encouraged by Minnesota's response or just impressed with the Spurs fight without their franchise player?
Impressed with the Spurs fight. You're talking about an All-NBA Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, literal game changer on both ends of the court, and they had a valiant effort. I mean, if I'm the Spurs, I'm like, okay, well, we didn't have Wemby, but we played a little faster, a little more guard-centric as well. Maybe they can try to use this game to sprinkle in some of that into their game plan in Game 5 because we saw with the Portland game when they didn't have Wemby. When they sped it up and let those guards go, they're still really good. So maybe potentially they can infuse kind of their performance tonight into the next game and win at home.
Nonetheless, I mean, whether you have Wemby or not, hopefully we do because that is must-see TV. You want to see that superstar there on the court in a very important Game 5 and at home. But nonetheless, I think it maybe raised some eyebrows. The Spurs were able to handle their own for a good chunk of that game, wasn't able to close it out, which goes to show why you need your big man. We'll see how Game 5 takes shape. That's Tuesday. We appreciate you stopping by, Henson.
Thank you.
Well, Henson talked about it. This story is about Anthony Edwards and the kind of outing that he had, especially there in the fourth quarter, finishing with 36 points, but 16 of them coming in the fourth quarter alone. Look at the rest of the Wolves team. They had 18. He was 6 of 8 shooting. They were 6 of 15. Shot 75%. Perfect from three-point land. His output essentially superseding what the rest of the team has done in the fourth quarter. And just to think, he's doing it coming off of injury. We'll see how he continues in Game 5.
A chance to get to the finals a run.
All right, well, should we dive a little bit more into what could be next for the Knicks? Because if you are New York, who would you rather face then in the conference finals? Are you looking at the Cavs or are you looking at the Pistons?
Ooh, that's tough. Probably from a talent perspective, I'd probably want to go Pistons just because they do struggle to score. Now, they defend really well, but they struggle to score, and they've got one guy, Cade, who kind of bears the load. The Cavaliers have Hard. They have Mitchell. They've got Allen Mobley, 2 All-Stars, Defensive Player of the Year. They have a lot more on paper. So if I got to pick a team, I'm going to pick the Pistons because of kind of their lack of star power. But that doesn't mean anything in these playoffs. The Pistons actually look really good right now.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the season series. The Pistons sweeping the Knicks 3-0 in the regular season. So, I mean, we'll see how that one plays out as we wait for that series. But as for the Sixers, we were talking about them a little bit. Obviously, not the ending that they maybe had in mind. But how would you just describe the state of Philly after this series? Because it does seem that they at least have a solid foundation. You brought it up. They've got VJ Edgecombe. They also have Tyrese Maxey. But what do you think about building around this foundation?
You know, I don't necessarily know how many first-round picks they have or their draft capital or assets, but you're going to have to kind of find a way to have talent that like Kelly Oubre and Quentin Grimes, 2 guys you probably want to try to keep, even Drummond off the bench, right? And then you want to build around these guys. Hey, look, they may go back and say, look, we have to run it back. We need Joel Embiid to get healthy. Paul George doesn't look like he's seen his last few days, or best of his last days. So he looks competent as well, even though he's aging. He's 36 years old. So look, maybe the 76ers say, hey, look, let's run this thing back, try it again. But there needs to be some conversations, especially with Embiid, because honestly, they didn't look as good as they were without Embiid, with Embiid. I'm sorry. So that's also an interesting aspect too. I don't think they're as good with Embiid. They have to play slower. They have to go through him. He's a great scorer, but he was 8 for 8, I think, today. But he takes tough shots, long twos. So not an efficient scoring guy when he's not scoring 30 or 40 points a game, which he was when he was healthy. So I do not envy Daryl Morey, but I will say he's one of the best in the biz, and he is more often than not the aggressor. I think you're going to see some splashy trades and moves by the 76ers. They're not going to go down swinging. Daryl Morey has never done that. He didn't do it in Houston. I don't think he's doing it in Philly. Okay, so now I'm going to put you on the spot. If you are the GM and you're over here running the Sixers, what is priority number 1 this offseason? Priority number 1 is figuring out what to do with Joel Embiid, right? He has 3 years left with the player option. So you've almost got to sit him down and say, hey, look, get healthy, big fella, this year. What do you think about it? Do you want to stay here? And if he says yes, I think you give him another chance and then build around that, right? They're not that far off. So, like I said, they could just sit back and say, look, we like what we have. We beat the Celtics in the first round. Our big fella hasn't been healthy. He hasn't played more than 6 games all year. So, first, we got to talk to Joel Embiid, see how he's feeling, see his health. I don't know what the paper and the MRIs and the x-rays are saying. I know he has a knee issue as well, but there's not much you can do with a big contract like that with an aging big man. They may have to run the process back again.
A tough go for the
Yeah.
76ers fans, what you're facing right now. You get swept out of the playoffs. You want to get your big man healthy, maybe get some pieces around some of these young pieces, but it's what can they truly work with right now? It's yet to be seen, but as of now, Knicks moving on. And Henson, I know you've been all over it. We appreciate you stopping by. Thank you. Well, the Knicks, they've been winning, not just winning, but across the playoffs, they've been winning convincingly. Their plus 194 point differential, that's the largest by any team in NBA history through their first 10 games of postseason play. The other 2 teams on this